Amina had always known she was different. Born in the village of Uzo, nestled deep within the African savanna, she was raised by her grandmother, the village healer, who often whispered to her that she was destined for greatness. From the moment Amina had been old enough to walk, her hair had been unlike any other, so long that it trailed behind her, sweeping the dirt path as she walked, curling and weaving its way through the grasses and flowers of the land. Her hair, deep black as midnight, shimmered with a supernatural luster. But it wasn't just beautiful. It was powerful. As she grew, so did her hair, until it was so long that it had to be braided into 100 thick strands, twisting like a snake across the village, shimmering with a mysterious, ethereal glow under the moonlight. It was said that her hair carried the whispers of the ancients, the wisdom of her ancestors, and with it the ability to heal and protect. But with great beauty came envy, and it was not long before the village elders began to fear her growing power. One evening, as Amina gathered wild herbs near the edge of the village, she encountered a strange figure, an old woman whose eyes glowed with an unnatural light. The woman spoke in riddles, warning Amina that her gift was both a blessing and a curse. "The world is not ready for a power like yours, child," she said, her voice raspy. "Beware, for there are those who will try to take it from you, and in doing so, they will bind you forever." Amina did not fully understand the woman's words, but that night she dreamed of a storm that would wash away everything she knew, a storm fueled by her hair. The following days were filled with a growing sense of unease, and as the wind began to howl through the village, strange occurrences started to unfold. Crops began to wither, and the skies grew dark. The once bountiful river that ran through the village dried up, leaving cracks in the earth. The elders gathered and declared that a curse had fallen upon the land, one that could only be lifted by the sacrifice of the woman whose hair had caused it, the woman whose power had reached too far into the heavens. Desperate to save her people and unsure of what to do, Amina turned to her grandmother. "The elders say that the curse is my doing. They want me to leave, to set myself apart from the village to undo the harm my hair has caused," she cried, her voice trembling. Her grandmother held her close, stroking her hair with a tenderness that belied the gravity of the situation. "Amina, you have always been special. Your hair is not just a part of you. It is the bridge between the earth and the spirits that walk among us. But, child, you must learn to control it, for without control, the power it holds will consume you and all that you love." But Amina was unsure. What did it mean to control something that had always felt like a part of her very soul? What if it was true that her hair was causing the misfortune? It was then that the old woman appeared once more, but this time her face was shrouded in shadow. "The spirits speak of your hair," she said ominously. "It is neither a gift nor a curse. It is a test. You must journey to the heart of the mountain, to the spirit of the wind, if you hope to understand your power. Only then will you know if your hair will save or destroy you." But there was a catch. The path to the heart of the mountain was treacherous, guarded by beasts of the wild, the spirits of the storm, and the shadows of the past. Only those with pure intent and unwavering courage could survive. Amina, torn between fear and the need to protect her people, knew that this was her only choice. She bid farewell to her grandmother and set off toward the mountain, her hair trailing behind her like a river of dark silk, the weight of her decision heavy on her heart. Amina's feet carried her through the dense forest, but it was her heart that felt the weight of every step. The air grew heavy with the scent of damp earth and rotting leaves, and the sounds of distant thunder echoed in the skies above. Her long hair, trailing behind her like a dark river, seemed to have a life of its own, twisting and curling around the trees, as though it too understood the gravity of her journey. As she moved deeper into the wilderness, the village that had been her home, the place where she had laughed and loved, seemed to fade into the distance, A sense of loneliness began to settle within her chest, like a stone too heavy to carry. She had never been alone like this before. Her grandmother had always been there, her village, her people. Yet now, she was walking into an unknown world, with only her hair and her courage to guide her. The path was treacherous, with sharp rocks and tangled vines that seemed determined to halt her progress. But Amina pressed on, the echo of the old woman's words ringing in her ears. You must learn to control it, or it will control you. The days stretched on, and the air grew colder, as if the earth itself was warning her to turn back. But each time she thought of returning, the image of her village, its people hungry, thirsty, and desperate, pushed her forward. Amina thought of her grandmother's gentle hands, weaving her hair into the intricate braids that had always been a symbol of their bond. Was it really my fault? She wondered, the question gnawing at her. Had her hair truly brought the curse upon them all? Was it a gift, or a burden I was never meant to carry? The winds picked up as Amina walked, sending her hair dancing around her like a cloak of shadows. She had learned to control its magic to heal the sick and calm the weather, but it was never easy. The weight of the power she carried was immense, a burden she had never asked for. She had always believed her hair was a gift, a connection to the spirits, a link between the earth and the heavens. But now, with every passing day, she felt the pressure of that gift turning into a curse. On the fourth night of her journey, as Amina camped beside a crackling fire, the winds howled, fierce and untamed. A sudden cold gust swept through the trees, and with it the voice of the old woman came to her on the wind. You seek control, but control is not the answer, Amina. To find peace, you must surrender. The words felt like a slap to her soul, and Amina shuddered, her hair beginning to twist around her body in frustration. She had never known surrender, not when it came to her power, her strength. She had always fought, always strived to control the forces around her, never once allowing herself to be weak. But now, in the face of the storm, she was beginning to understand what the old woman meant. Control was an illusion, a struggle against the inevitable. Her hair had always been a reflection of her emotions, of her inner turmoil. When she was scared, it tangled. When she was angry, it whipped like a snake. But when she was at peace, it moved gracefully, as if it too was content. That night, under the flickering shadows of the firelight, Amina wept. Her tears fell like raindrops into the earth, mingling with the soil, as though even the land itself shared in her sorrow. She wept for the village she had left behind, for the people who depended on her, for her grandmother who had always been her anchor. But most of all, she wept for herself, lost, uncertain, and afraid. She was a woman who had never been taught to fear, yet now, in the silence of the wilderness, she realized that she feared the very thing that had always defined her. Her hair, her long enchanted hair. It was more than just a physical attribute. It was a reflection of her spirit. In it, she carried the hopes of her people, the weight of her ancestors' legacy, and the burdens of her own heart. She wondered, as the fire flickered, if she was strong enough to carry that weight. Can I really face the spirit of the wind? She thought, her eyes closing against the tears that still stained her cheeks. Can I bear to confront my own soul? The next morning, after a restless night, Amina awoke with a sense of clarity. She would not seek control over her hair. Instead, she would seek understanding. She realized that she had been running from her own power, too afraid to accept it fully, too afraid to face the truth of what it meant to be Amina, the woman with the hair of the spirits. She stood up, her resolve hardening like stone. The heart of the mountain was not far now, and though she did not know what awaited her there, she knew one thing for certain. She could no longer run from who she was. Her hair was not a curse. It was a part of her, as much a part of her as her heart, her breath, and the very earth she walked upon. And perhaps, just perhaps, if she embraced it, The spirits would guide her in a way that no one had ever imagined. Amina's journey led her up the steep slopes of the heart of the mountain, each step taking her farther from the life she had known. The mountain loomed like a silent giant, its jagged peaks cutting through the heavens, wrapped in mist and mystery. The winds, once gentle whispers, now roared like a great beast as Amina ascended. Her hair, which had once seemed so elegant and graceful, now fought against her in wild tangles, whipping around her body like a living thing. Yet, instead of resisting, she allowed it to move as it wished, feeling its rhythm and pulse, like a reflection of her own turmoil. As she climbed higher, the air grew thinner, colder, and her breath grew ragged. The isolation she had felt on the forest floor now felt like an eternal weight pressing against her chest, as though the mountain itself was testing her resolve. What if I am not strong enough? The question haunted her with every step. What if the spirit of the wind sees me as weak? The doubts crept in like shadows, but she shook them off. She had come this far. There was no turning back now. She had to confront what had always been within her. The mountain path was treacherous, filled with sharp rocks and dangerous cliffs. Yet Amina was undeterred, her gaze focused on the summit. It was as though the mountain was alive, its winds gusting violently, trying to push her back, but she fought against it with every ounce of strength. Her hair, once a flowing river, now seemed to whip and twirl in response to the storm, intertwining with the winds, a force of nature itself. As she neared the peak, a sudden fierce gust of wind sent her crashing to the ground. Her hair wrapped around her like ropes, pulling her to the edge of a precipice. She struggled, trying to free herself, but the more she fought, the tighter her hair seemed to bind her. Panic surged through her chest as the drop beneath her seemed endless. But then, like a voice in the distance, a soft whisper reached her ears. Amina! It was the voice of the old woman, the one who had warned her of the curse. Do not fight. Surrender to it. Amina froze, the panic subsiding as the truth of the words washed over her. The moment she stopped struggling, her hair loosened, releasing its grip on her. It was then that she understood. The hair was not her enemy. It was a reflection of her own fears and resistance. For all this time, she had tried to control it, to keep it confined to her will. But in doing so, she had been choking the very life out of it, and in turn, choking herself. The winds began to calm as Amina stood up, her heart pounding in her chest, but now with a sense of peace. She closed her eyes, allowing the winds to blow freely through her hair, feeling it move with the rhythm of the storm, like an extension of her own soul. She no longer tried to tame it. Instead, she let it flow, let it dance with the winds, let it be free. She was no longer fighting herself. She was learning to coexist with the power that had always been within her. And in that moment, as the winds swirled around her, something remarkable happened. The storm began to shift. The winds, once angry and chaotic, softened, like a gentle breeze sweeping across the mountain. The clouds parted, revealing the sun in its full glory, as if the heavens themselves had opened to welcome her. Amina smiled through her tears, realizing that she had finally accepted herself, her power, and her place in the world. She was not cursed. She was a part of something much greater than herself. And with that realization, a sense of calm washed over her. The spirit of the wind had not come to punish her. It had come to teach her. It had tested her, yes, but it had also shown her that strength did not lie in control, but in surrender. The moment she stopped resisting the winds of her own soul, she became one with them. Amina's hair, no longer a burden, now shimmered with a quiet, serene energy, and as the winds died down, she felt a presence beside her, strong and wise, yet gentle. The spirit of the wind had manifested, taking the form of an ethereal being, its body woven from the very fabric of the air. Its eyes were the color of the sky, vast and ancient, filled with both knowledge and compassion. You have done well, Amina, the spirit said, its voice like a distant thunderstorm. "You have learned the greatest lesson of all, that true power lies in the ability to embrace the unknown, to surrender to the flow of life. You have become one with your gift, and in doing so, you have unlocked its true potential." The spirit's words filled Amina's heart with a warmth she had never known. It was not her hair that was the source of her power. It was her ability to connect with the forces of nature, to trust in the world around her. She had always been connected to the earth, to the air, to the spirits, but it was only now, in the heart of the mountain, that she had truly understood what it meant to be a part of it all. The spirit of the wind extended a hand to her, and Amina took it, feeling a surge of energy pass between them. "Go back to your people, Amina," the spirit said. "You are no longer bound by fear. You are free to create the world you wish to see." With those final words, the spirit faded into the wind, leaving Amina standing at the peak of the mountain, her hair flowing like a river of light. And, as she turned to descend the mountain, she felt lighter than she ever had before, freer, stronger, and at peace with herself. Amina descended from the mountain with a heart lighter than it had ever been, her spirit soaring alongside the winds that had once threatened to break her. The once mighty storm had calmed, and now the world around her felt alive, brimming with possibilities. As her feet touched the earth once again, she felt a deep connection to the land beneath her, a bond stronger than any she had ever known. Her hair, no longer a chaotic tangle of wild energy, now flowed in harmony with the rhythm of the earth, a symbol of the balance she had achieved within herself. But as she made her way back toward her village, she was not sure what awaited her. The village, still reeling from the curse, had no idea that Amina had found the wisdom to unlock the power that had once terrified them. She could still hear the voices of the elders, whispering their fears, calling for her exile. Would they accept her? Would they see her not as a danger, but as a savior? Or would they cast her aside, afraid of the very thing that made her unique? When Amina finally reached the village, the once bustling streets were eerily quiet. The people, their faces gaunt from hunger and fear, looked up as she approached. It was as if they were waiting for something, waiting for the storm to return, waiting for the destruction they had feared. But instead of wrath, Amina brought with her a calm, a stillness that spread through the air like a gentle breeze. Her long hair, once a symbol of danger, now moved with purpose, wrapping around the village like a protective shield. The elders stood before her, their eyes wary, but there was something else there now, something that spoke of hope. The village leader, an old man whose face had been carved by time and sorrow, stepped forward. "Amina," he said, his voice a mixture of fear and reverence, "you have returned, but we do not know what to make of your power." Amina stood tall, her heart beating steadily in her chest. "My power has always been here, in the land, in the wind, in the very earth beneath our feet," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "But the true power lies not in my hair. It lies in my ability to trust in the world around me, to trust in the forces that guide us all. And I have learned that when we fear those forces, when we try to control them, we destroy ourselves. But when we learn to flow with them, we can create something beautiful." The village leader's eyes softened, and for the first time, Amina saw the spark of understanding in his gaze. The people gathered around her, their fear slowly dissipating, replaced by a glimmer of hope. The drought had not yet passed, but as Amina raised her arms, the winds began to stir, carrying with them the scent of rain. Her hair, now alive with energy, reached toward the sky, and in that moment, the heavens responded. Dark clouds rolled in, not in fury, but in unity, as if the very elements themselves were joining Amina in her mission to restore balance. The rain began to fall, soft at first, then heavier, until it poured down upon the village like a cleansing wave. The people cheered, the sound of their joy rising above the storm, filling the air with a melody of relief and gratitude. Amina stood in the center, her hair flowing like a river, a part of the very world around her. She had found her place. She had found peace. And as the rain washed away the dust and despair, Amina knew that this was only the beginning. The power she carried was not just for herself. It was for her people, for the land, and for the future. She had learned the greatest lesson of all, that true strength comes not from fighting the forces of the world, but from embracing them. As the village celebrated, Amina turned toward the horizon, her heart filled with a sense of purpose. She had faced the storm within herself, and now she was ready to face the world. And so, dear viewers, we come to the end of Amina's journey. But the story doesn't end here. The message of her tale is simple. Embrace your true self, the parts of you that you fear, the parts that seem too wild, too powerful. Because when you accept who you are, when you stop fighting the forces that make you different, that is when you truly begin to live. If you found something in Amina's journey that spoke to you, remember, you too have the power to create something beautiful from within. Don't let fear hold you back. And if you feel inspired, share this story with those who need to hear it, because the winds of change are strongest when they are carried by many. Like, share, and subscribe, and may the winds always guide you toward your truth.